Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to 2 Cents with Bentz. For those of you who are new here, I'm the host, Dana Bentz, and I played around with our graphic this week. For those of you who are used to our usual graphic, normally it says 2 Cents with Bentz, and then I introduce the guest, but at the beginning I showed our graphic for this week where I played around with it and called it 2 Bentz on 2 Cents, because I get to interview my sister, Kelsey Benz, she'll be joining us tonight. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Welcome or welcome back. I see some familiar faces in the comments, so thank you so much for tuning in. I saw Johnny in the comments and Mike tuning in live. Thanks for being here. For those of you who are tuning in on LinkedIn or on Twitter or on Facebook, wherever we're sharing this out, let us know where you're tuning in from. But without further ado, I'm going to bring on my guest tonight. Kelsey Benz is my sister. Most of you know Kelsey as being my sister. But tonight we're going to talk about her brand, both as Kelsey Benz, the performer, the actress, the content creator in the arts space. But we're also going to talk about her new show, building the brand she's built around her show, Avenue A. For those of you who don't know that she does that show, we're going to get into that tonight. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on Kelsey Benz to 2 Benz with 2 Cents.
Woo! What's up?
Thanks for being on my show, Kels. This is so fun.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me. I'm honored. I love it. I usually produce this show, so it's so cute to be on stage instead of backstage.
I know, it's way more fun. I was just thinking right before we went live, I was like, shoot, I shouldn't have had my producer as a guest because now I have to produce.
Right. Yeah, that's right. I didn't even really consider that. That's funny.
I know. I didn't think about it either. So we'll be slow to show all the comments on screen, but
yeah,
that's okay. The show graphics still look great because we can get all those set up pre-show. But for the people in my audience, Kels, that don't know you, who don't know about Avenue A, who don't know what you work on, maybe they've just seen you on StreamYard Spotlight show that we do together. Can you give them a background on you?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm an actor. I'm a singer, a dancer, a performer, just all around creator. And I grew up on the West Coast in Portland. Dana, obviously, you know that because you grew up with me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we grew up in Portland, Oregon. Yep. And then as a kid, I was, I dabble in sports very briefly. And then I decided, you know what, the arts life is the life for me. So I got into theater pretty heavily, and I never looked back. So I moved to New York City for school. I went to NYU for acting, and I got my degree in acting, and I just graduated actually last May.
Woo!
Into the big wide pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been an interesting journey. And yeah, now I live in New York City full time, and I work at StreamYard, which is really awesome. And I've also, gotten into the live streaming sphere, specifically during the pandemic. That's what really launched me into the world of live streaming, because, obviously theaters are not functioning as they were before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of like Broadway theater happen on StreamYard, which has kind of been neat for you to see, but neat for all of us to see that at least creatives or people are still creating in this time, which you've been doing. And we're going to talk more about what you've built with your specific live streaming show.
Yeah.
And Amit says, two sisters. Wow, I'll be going live with my 11-year-old son on Thursday.
I
That's
love it.
So fun. Oh,
That's amazing.
I know, it's so, we've talked before, and I think I've told you this before, Kels, that I think it would be so much fun for you and I to do a show together.
Yeah,
so this is
talked about it.
I know, we just have to come up with a topic, but this is our, what do you call it? This is like our intro to seeing if we're good co-hosts.
This is our pilot episode. Yeah.
To see if it's fun. Okay, so you graduated into the pandemic, like how crazy.
Smack dab.
Smack dab. So you started working at StreamYard. That was just kind of the day job. And then you created Avenue A.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So, everyone was in this time of crisis, back in March. Yeah. We're like, what's happening? School shut down, I was in my final semester at NYU and I had all these plans for myself, and I had a vision for, what I was going to pursue post-grad. And, there were still unknowns, but I had much more of a direction, I felt like, just because, that's what you do. Going out into the world, you're like, okay, I have to figure it out. So I was starting to figure it out. And then I got sent home for the pandemic in March. And I spent, the majority of the last 6 months in quarantine back home, Dana, with you, which was so great to be with family. But it definitely, it was such a whirlwind of figuring out, okay, like, what does my post-grad life look like, number one? And number two, how can I stay engaged with my artistic community? Because that's what was so devastating about the pandemic, specifically in regards to my career and the artistic community, is that we're so used to being together. And that's, the community is what, I don't know, what theater and art lives on, and the gathering of people, right? So that was
such
really
an extroverted thing, like connecting and feeding off the audience members.
Totally. Hey, Ross. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, Ross was on last week.
Yes.
Woohoo.
So, that was
really... Beauty Bubble said Ross's master's in human resource management was from NYU. What? We didn't know that, Ross.
I didn't know that.
I know. How cool. NYU grads.
Whoop, whoop. I love it. Very different sides of the school.
I know.
But amazing nonetheless. It's
human
a great university.
Management and development. How cool. Very fun.
That's awesome.
Okay.
So, yeah, like I was saying, it's just, I had to really rethink pretty quickly, how can I stay engaged with my community? Because it was really devastating for me, not only to leave New York, but, just have everything shut down and see the arts industry be so devastated by this pandemic.
Yeah.
So it kind of came together for me, the idea. I started working at StreamYard, and at first I was like, it's a great gig. I can work at home and it's awesome. But then I put two and two together and I was like, this is a live streaming tool and it's so amazing. And I should really take advantage of it. So I came up with the idea for Avenue A, which is a live stream weekly show about acting, networking, and the industry, with the goal of both staying connected with my artistic community, but then also learning from my peers, continuing to grow as an artist, and then also, most importantly, creating a really accessible resource for other young artists who are making their way into the acting industry or the arts industry as a whole. Because I was really lucky and blessed to be able to go to NYU and get that artistic training. And I feel so just lucky to have done that. And I'm so thankful for it. So with the Avenue A, I thought that using my network of people that I've grown over the course of my time at NYU and in New York City, and sort of utilizing that to make an accessible resource for other young people across the world. You know, you can access the show wherever you are.
Right.
Would just be a really cool thing to do, especially right now in this moment.
Yeah. So I love that it helps, like you said, like there's been such devastation for actors in general, for Broadway, for anyone really in the arts who has to stay home, they're shut down. So it's a resource for them. Like you're connecting them, but not only them, you're connecting young actors who are at NYU, young actors anywhere, just someone, like it's a resource for everyone basically in the acting world, right?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely the goal. You know, that's what I want it to be, and it's turned into a really amazing resource for myself as well. Like it's been such a challenging thing for me, and it's just so outside of my comfort zone in so many ways. So it's been a great project to delve into over the last 6 months, just because you know it's forcing me to really. Not only practice what I preach in terms of, you know, staying disciplined and staying connected with people and all of that. Like it really, having a weekly show, you really have to be on top of your game, you know?
Yeah. And you book a new guest every single week. Like that's not easy.
Yeah. So I'm in charge of, you know, everything, the booking, the reaching out to the guests, scheduling, all of that. And then I also do all the graphic design for the show. I run all the social media. You know, I have you as my
the branding.
wonderful producer. So Dana does the behind the scenes. Come Friday night, she's the one who's running the show, so that I can just sort of relax and be with my guests, which is so amazing. I'm so thankful for you taking the time to do that every week.
Oh, well, same to you. You do the same for me. You're running my comments normally. Now I have to be like managing the whole thing. It's a lot harder without a producer.
It is.
And
yeah, totally.
Ross says the experience outside the classroom is one of the best parts of being at NYU. Would you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree, Ross. And that's honestly one of the reasons I selected NYU as my university. I was deciding between a few, but I was like, you know, what's more challenging than not only having to navigate a new school and college and all of that, but also having to navigate a new city at the same time, because there's no real campus, you know. It's like you're emerged into the life of New York, basically. So yes, I definitely think that's true.
Wow, that's so cool. It's so fun, like small world that Ross went to NYU.
You know.
So I want to talk about how, like you mentioned when starting Avenue A, it was so just keeping Avenue A running and up, and since you're wearing all the hats, so to speak, of running this show, and producing the show, and like everything involved in the graphics. Can you talk about how hard it was to build a brand from scratch? Like, what was that like pulling this idea out of your head and then just running with it?
Yeah, it was challenging, mostly in the sense of I had never expended a lot of my time on my own art. And that sounds crazy to say, but when I reflect on it, it's quite true. The majority of my artistic career thus far has been me lending my own talents to other people's projects, which is where I felt safe and where I felt comfortable and where I felt, you know, needed and wanted and validated. Most importantly, I felt like, oh, someone else wants me for their thing, and I'm happy to do that. And I never really considered creating. Well, I considered it. I considered creating my own content, but it was never something that I pursued because I don't know. I was holding myself back in that sense, and so I spent the majority of my time on other people's projects, and so that was the biggest shift for me in developing this show. Was just really having to hone in on what do I want? Because it's all up to me. So, you know, what do I want this show to be? How do I want it to be? What do I want it to communicate? What's the message? You know what I mean? And the whole structure of the show was really up to me and no one but me. So that was really disconcerting in the beginning, both exciting and disconcerting. Very scary.
Like it's gonna look however you want it to look. It's your graphics. Like that's scary.
Which now that's invigorating to me. Now that I've done almost 30 episodes, I'm like, yeah, that's great. It inspires me. But at the beginning I was like, I don't know what to do. Like there's no one telling me, what to do here. And so I really had to tap into like, what do I want? What do I want to say as an artist? How do I want to say it? How do I want this to look? And it soon turned from overwhelming to just really exciting, because I was like, no one can tell me anything because it's my show. So, it's really, I can do what I want with it.
Yeah. There's no like producers, there's no directors, there's no like what you're used to as an actor. It's like you're like an employee kind of in the production.
Right.
But now you're everything. You're the director and the actor on stage.
Yeah. I've come close to firing myself a couple times, not gonna lie.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So you've built this brand up. Like you've built Avenue A to what it is. You're going on 30 episodes. You've already done your mid-season 2. Yeah. What would be your tips for the person who wants to start something like this or is wanting to start to build their own brand?
Yeah, a couple of things. The first thing, honestly, was just getting the first episode done. That was the hardest part, for real.
Okay. And what was hard about it?
This is exactly the freedom that streaming provides, and it should remain this way so we can reach more people with our own joy. That's so true. It comes down to the joy, Beauty Bubble. That's a great way of putting it, because it really is me tapping into what brings me joy and what do I want to do, and then I do it. So it's great. To answer your question, Dana, it was actually you who pushed me to start that first episode, because I remember you and Mom, I remember the three of us were brainstorming this idea and sort of trying to flesh it out. Yeah. And I was just mortified. Like the idea felt like such a mammoth. And thinking about actually getting that first episode done felt like it was so far away. And I remember both of you were like, so when is it going to happen? When's it going to be? Like, what, do you have it on the calendar? And I was always just like, no, excuse. And I really had to sort of ponder what I wanted it to be, which is part of my own process. So I gave myself space for that. But yeah, once I was just like, all right, you know what? I just have to get this on the calendar and then just bite the bullet and do it. So I did. And after that first episode, I wanted to puke and poop my pants at the same time. But
oh no.
I felt so liberated, and I was like, okay, this is actually fun and I can do it. Like I felt like I could do it, and that's a great feeling. Yeah. So just getting started is the first thing. And as an artist, I think I just want to add this piece on. I think a lot of us feel perfectionistic with our art, like we don't want to present ourselves in a poor light or make ourselves seem undeveloped or I don't know, just sloppy. So that was my fear. Like I wanted it to be perfect, but I realized that like you can't be perfect on the first episode. You just have to get it out there. And then this leads to my second tip, which is just consistency. I mean, the hardest part for me after I got over that hurdle of the first episode was just sticking with it. And it really does take a lot of discipline and self-motivation to like get it together every single week. There's not a week where I can be like, oh, I'm just, never mind. Well, I could, cause it's my show, but I don't want to, because I have respect for this project, so it's like, I have this thing where I want to hold myself to this standard, and I really do love doing it, but it does take work. So sticking with it every week and just like continuously getting guests on the show and thinking of new ways to market and brand and sort of like expand the life of and the existence of the show online is really is really what's important, I think, after you get past those first few episodes, you know, where you're just riding on the high of, you know, creating something.
Right.
Yeah.
I love the story from the beginning. Like, it was so hard to get started, but when I was bugging you and when mom was bugging you, like, when are you actually going to launch this thing?
Seriously.
Like, that kind of helped slowly get towards like going through your own process. Like, that was part of launching the first episode, because I think you're so right. Like, the first one's always the hardest because you don't really know what it's going to be like, how it's going to go. Like, even for me, when I launched 2 Cents with Bentz, like, it wasn't my first live stream, but I still had that feeling of like, how is this going to go? Like, what's my brand going to look like? Is my own personal show just going to flop? Because,
and like, are people going to care? That was my thing.
Oh, yep.
Like, I was like, who's going to give a shit about this?
Yep.
Like, I'm so mean to myself, you know, but I really was like, what if literally everyone's just like, you're so dumb for doing this? But then I was like, you know what? It actually doesn't matter, because I've chosen a topic that I could freaking talk about till I die. Like, I don't need anyone listening to me, you know? It's just something that I love.
Nadine, thanks for tuning in, Nadine.
Oh my gosh,
it's an awesome show. Aww.
So sweet.
But
yeah, like, I just came to the realization, like, it doesn't matter if people want to watch or not, because like, I am so invested in this and I'm having a great time, and so like, it's fine if they do, you know, and it's fine if they don't.
It's fine if they do. It's fine if they don't. And that's what's going to help you stay consistent, because you're like, well, I want to talk to someone about acting, networking in the industry this week. So like, we'll just do the show, you know, because you're so passionate about the actual subject.
And I think that also draws in the viewers. Like, people can tell when you're passionate about something. And obviously with a show like acting and networking in the industry, it's kind of niche. Like, if you're not an actor, you know, you might not be so interested in it. But I have found that a lot of my, you know, mutual contacts that are in the arts industry in some form, when they do tune in, they tend to, I mean, I get this feedback, but they tend to get something out of it and think that it's, you know, interesting, and that the guest has something enriching to say, which they usually do. So it's really cool.
They usually do. Yeah, you've had really good guests on.
Thanks.
So that brings us to one of my last questions. So you just wrapped up season 1, which was, I think, 20 episodes or 25?
It was 20 episodes. Yeah, 20 weeks.
20 weeks.
Yeah.
So 20 weeks, season 1. Now you're into season 2. But what did you learn from wrapping up season 1 of Avenue A?
Oh, so many things. I learned that I actually learned how to network. I think that's like a big thing that I learned, because we talk about the, you know, the big word networking on my show, and I've actually
networking in the industry.
That's right. And I've talked to some of the guests about like what that word means to them, because it's kind of a weird word and it means something different to every person. But to me, it just means connecting with the people who are in your community, whether that be, you know, a sports community, or, you know, your career community, or your hobby community, whatever. In my case, it's the acting community, the arts community. So it's just connecting with them, right? And reaching out and sort of just making relationships with people, without any motive or goal, you know, in doing that. That's what it means to me. So I've really learned how to do that through developing the show, because, you know, like we talked about before, I'm really in charge of booking the guests and like reaching out to people and figuring out who would be a good fit for, you know, the show, and who's going to be willing to be on the show. That's another thing, like just getting people who want to, because not everyone, you know, wants to do something like that, which I understand. So through that development, I've really learned how to talk to people, and specifically how to email people, which is just like a weird skill that I feel like I'm really proficient at now, is how to make like a kick-ass email, and have it be really effective and like not waste people's time.
Well, and that's so important for booking for not only for booking guests like on a show like this, but for networking with people, like important people that you want in your own network.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge, because email's like how you connect with people. That's your first impression.
It is. It is. Yeah. And, you know, everyone gets a zillion emails a day. Like, I'm not trying to read a whole thing. And I know that people who are, you know, like more prominent than me also don't want to read a whole thing. So it's been interesting, like developing my like email campaign or whatever that I send to people. And then also, you know, following up and like just being really gracious and grateful. Like I am so, it honestly blows my mind that I even have had, you know, 20, I guess we're going on 25 guests, that 25 different people have been down to spend a half an hour with me, you know, on a Friday evening. It's just, it blows my mind. And I'm literally so grateful, like every day. It's just so exciting to me. And it shows me how amazing the arts community is. And I'm just so happy to be a part of it. So that's been one thing, is like, I've really learned how to network and how to talk to people and how to take no, you know, and just move on. That's something else, like dealing with that sort of, it could be rejection if someone doesn't want to be a guest on your show, but like, you know, no harm, no foul. Like we're all out here trying to live our best life, and that's okay.
Yeah. And they might say no, and you come back 3 months later and you're like, hey, here's season 2. And they're like, sure.
Yeah, you never know. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's just great to connect with people, even to send that email and have them be like, hey, thanks, but no thanks. I'm like, dope. Like, we talked there for a sec, and like, hopefully, you know, they're doing well. So that, and then also I've just learned a lot about technology. I mean, graphic design, like doing all of that and like putting it all together. I've just really challenged myself in that sense, which has been really cool. Like with this virtual medium, it's exciting to me, all of the possibilities.
Yeah. Congrats on your accomplishments, Kelsey.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
So sweet. And Ross says it's so cool when people see the value in what you're creating and they want to be a part of it. That is so true.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
They want to be a part of it, not only as guests in the actual live stream, like you getting to interview them, but also in the comments, tuning in. You have your viewers who come back every single week and leave you sweet comments.
Yeah.
It is really neat. It's
wonderful.
Neat that you've like built this thing you like built this project from square one, and you now have like this thing that's like your baby that's just grown, you know, into 30 episodes or however many episodes and seasons upon seasons. My last question for you, well, actually we should talk about branding, because I wanted to talk about your graphics specifically.
Yeah.
So did you have any graphic design experience prior to making all your cool graphics for Avenue A?
No, absolutely zero, -4.
So how did you do that? Like, how did you make a logo? How did you make your background? How did you make the overlay?
Yeah. So honestly, for me, I stumbled upon the website Canva, and like that truly has been life-changing to me. And I don't know if I could really be doing the level of design work I'm doing like on another platform. Like I'm not like a generally skilled graphic designer, but like with Canva, like I can work some magic. You know what I mean? Canva and I are buds, and I like upgraded to the pro account, and like that's the best $12.99 like I will ever spend. So that's really where it started, and it's so user friendly, and so I didn't feel overwhelmed with it. And so I just started like messing around with stuff, and I found that to create a brand, you know, we're talking about branding, and I was like, okay, what is the Avenue A brand? Like, what is my brand? Like I had to like look inside of myself and be like, what do I want this to be, and how do I want it to look? And so I started really simple. You know, I was like, okay, I just have to get something out there. So let me just pick a color. I picked one color and I was like, all right, this is going to be the show color. And then I kind of just like designed a really simple like overlay, and I designed the logo. And I was like, okay, great. And it was just like so simple, you know, but it got the point across. Right. And then as I went forward, I started to like, I got more involved on social media, and I was looking at other people's like branding, and because I was getting into that mindset of like, okay, what do I want this to like physically look like online?
Yeah.
And it really does come down to, in my opinion, just like colors and fonts. Like that's how I see it. And now like I've definitely, and textures. That's another thing. This is so like I don't know if this is answering your question, but like
Yeah.
I really have developed the brand just by getting more familiar with like what textures look good on a thing. Like my first logo graphic thing was like very one-dimensional.
Gotcha.
And it just like, in my opinion, was just flat, you know?
Yeah.
And so I started adding like layered images and some different fonts with like there's like a feature where you can like shadow the fonts and just like giving it a little more dimension is effective. This is like visually effective. So I was really trying to tune in onto like what looks good. And then I still use that one color that I chose, but I complement it now, you know, with different other colors and other fonts and stuff. So it's just been fun to play, I think. And there's no pressure, you know, on me to do anything because it is like my thing. So
it's your own brand. It can be whatever you want it to look like.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I'm also trying to cater to like what is pleasing to the eye. I mean, that's what I go off of. You know, I'm not trained in graphic design and I'm not like trained in branding, but I am, I think acting school is sort of like branding school. It's like personal branding. Like you're like trying to figure out who you are as a person so that you can accurately portray other characters. So I definitely think that skill lends itself well to sort of like creating a live stream brand as well, because it's me ultimately, you know, it goes back to like, this is my show and this is what I want to do. So how do I want it to look? And like, what are my favorite colors? And like, what do I think pops? You know, in terms of graphics and stuff like that. So it's been a cool journey and adventure and just sort of like figuring out what I like and like how I like it. And then also like I do rely on the feedback from some close people, like mom, you know, she's always like, yeah, that graphic looks great, or like, you know, you could like tweak this or whatever. Like she's such an awesome person in that sense. Like she's so honest and she has a great eye, and you as well. I mean, you give me such great feedback. So it's helpful to have people in your life that are the viewers, you know, of the thing you're creating, who can like give you feedback and you trust what they have to say.
I'm glad you trust what I have to say. Thank you. Thank you so much.
One other thing, it's just like consistent content too. It goes back to the consistency thing, which is like so basic in a sense, but it like actually is the key. Like you have to be posting a lot, which I also had to get over because before the pandemic, I was like not really on social media that much. Like I had an Instagram, I had Facebook, but like I wasn't really posting very often. I wasn't active on it. I preferred to keep my phone away. So that was a big shift for me too. But I realized like I just have to be more active with my posts. Like if I want to gain any sort of traction or like have anyone care about this, I have to like have a footprint. So
that's the only way people are going to find out about it.
Exactly. So I just like started sharing it more and like telling my friends and trying to be modest about it. Like if people don't want to watch, I'm not going to shove it down their throats, but it has been fun to like think of content to put out there. And that's a cool thing about multi-streaming is that you have, you know, I don't have to edit. So I don't have to spend time editing the shows because they're just all live. And I can also repurpose them. So I like take snippets of it. I screen record and post on Instagram, you know, for the 1 minute video limit or whatever. And I send people to my YouTube channel if they want to watch the rest, you know, stuff like that. Like you can really repurpose the content. And I also like, you know, design different Instagram graphics and stuff like that. So I'm like constantly thinking of different ways that I can use the content that I have to get the word out.
Cool. Yeah. Kels, those are great tips, not only for people who want to grow a brand, but who want to start their own live streaming show and want to become live streamers.
Yeah.
I love that. I love everything that everything you've learned in your journey. I feel like it's going to, I mean, I don't want to say it's going to help you for your next like chapter in your life because, you know, what does that mean? But like, I love that these are all such valuable skills, and Beauty Bubble said all the details matter. They can migrate into many other areas. Like that's so true, because the skills you're learning of being consistent, like showing up to a show every single week and like building this brand that you've built around Avenue A is like running a company. Like it's like building a business. Like
It
you're an
is.
entrepreneur of this show, you know,
Yeah.
and you're in sales, like booking guests, and you're in marketing on social media. Like you're running all these, you're wearing all these hats, like what I like to call it. So it's
Yeah.
just so like you're growing so many neat skills by just putting on this live streaming show. And I love that you're sharing your tips with my guests. But my last question for you, I know we're out of time. We're over time actually.
Yeah.
But I really want to ask you
Happens.
this. I know it happens when we get
It
started.
happens to me all the time.
I know. At least it's not an hour, but it might be. So my last question, you ask your guests this sometimes. You say, if you could network with anyone out there, who would you add to your network? So I want to ask you, who would you have on your show if you could have anyone on your show?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Catherine O'Hara.
Catherine O'Hara.
I'm literally obsessed. Catherine O'Hara, like Dan Levy, and Annie Murphy, those three from Schitt's Creek.
Yep.
I love the show. I think Catherine O'Hara, I mean, I've known Catherine O'Hara for a long time. Like I've watched her, like lesser popular stuff. And like, she's just
Yeah.
like the queen. Like she's a queen, and she was so underrated, I think, until Schitt's Creek really blew up. And like, I mean, she really just created something so amazing there. And I'm just obsessed too with like older women who have had a long career in the arts. Like there's something about that to me that's just so inspiring because and who are still making really amazing art. Like she's in the prime of her career right now and she's like in her 70s. Like that makes me want to cry tears of joy, because
That's
like for
crazy.
myself, I feel like as an actor, like youthfulness and beauty are like so valued, and so it's kind of stressful as a young actress to be like, okay, like I have to like make it before I get old. There's like this weird stigma of that. That's kind of off topic, but like someone like Catherine O'Hara, like she's been working consistently her whole life and like she's gained a lot of notoriety, but specifically now, like this is the prime for her. And I just find it so inspiring. And she's just, her choices are amazing. So if I could have anyone, it would be her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that. Well, you've already had some pretty high up there guests like Alice Ripley.
I know.
So maybe Catherine's next. We'll see.
Hopefully. You know what? I'm
Hopefully.
gonna figure out a way.
Yeah.
Because why not ask? You know what I mean? That's my philosophy.
Well, the worst they could say is no.
Exactly. In 2020, anything goes. You know what I mean? Bad things, but also super cool things. So yeah. The last thing I'll say, I really want to just say this before we end. Something that's really cool just about creating a live stream show is that I feel like you really get to know yourself. That's an experience that I've had. Even though like I have been a performer my whole life. So being in front of people and being in front of a camera, like I didn't think I would be so nervous, but the thing that differentiated it was before I've always played a character. I've always embodied someone else on stage and behind the camera. And this is just like, my show is just me, and it was terrifying because I was like, I'm not used to this. I'm not used to not having this cover of someone else, right? Like I have to be myself. So I've really it's been challenging and I've gotten to know myself a lot better, I guess. And like, it's helped create my personal brand, if you want to call it.
Yeah. Like your personal acting brand.
Yeah, but also just like me as a person, like it's so challenging, and like me going out into the world, like I know that I'm capable of doing something like this. And like, just as a human being, like that feels great. You know what I mean? Like you put yourself out there, you created something and you shared it with people. That's so vulnerable. And it's really awesome.
Scary. Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Wow, Kels, it is so awesome. And you just, like you portray how passionate you are about Avenue A and how passionate you are like about live streaming, about building this thing you've built, about still being creative, putting out a project or putting out art, even though we're all in lockdown, even though we're all stuck at home. It's like, what can you do in this little office? But you're like, this is what I can do. This is how I can still put my art out there This is how I can still be creative.
And I've been so lucky to have so many guests on who are sharing what they're doing too. You know, it's like so humbling to hear what other people are up to and like the amazing projects that, you know, people in my community are working on. And I'm just like floored by it every time, you know, and so that's really cool too, is just to hear what everyone else is doing in their little tiny rooms. You know, we're all in our tiny rooms, you know, doing stuff. Or
working on our own. Working on our own stuff. So, Kels, I'm sure everyone's going to be like, where can I watch Avenue A?
Oh my God.
When is the next episode and where can they find you?
So we go live every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Friday night, you know, grab a cocktail, join us. So we're going live this Friday at 8 with an awesome guest that I am going to announce actually this week. 8 EST, yes, 5 p.m. PST. And you can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Avenue A Live. Or you can find us on YouTube under my channel, Kelsey Bentz. And you should subscribe and like the videos. I'm trying to grow that, you know, subscriber count. And then also I'm on Instagram, at Kelseys Bentz. That's like my personal page. And Avenue A is also on Instagram, Avenue A Live. So just search one of the two and you'll find
it somewhere. You'll find it somewhere.
Yeah.
Kevin says, hey,
what
Kevin,
up, Kevin?
Thanks for tuning in. Oh my gosh, so fun. So Friday night, 8 p.m. EST, 5 p.m. PST, Avenue A Live.
Avenue A Live.
We'll be there. Kels, you have been such a good guest. I've never interviewed you on my show. We've co-hosted our Spotlight.
I know, this is a cute look for us,
forever. I know. Well, you're such a good guest. And I was surprised at how passionate you are about Avenue A. Like, I know you do it every week, and I know you show up in the show and you're so engaged with the guests and you have all your questions for them. And like, I know you have a great time during the show, but to hear you talk about it, and like to get a more overarching view of your thoughts on the whole show itself is just so motivating for me as a live streamer. Like, that is what live streaming is about you're passionate about it. You share that passion with all your guests, all your viewers, to like build this community about something that you're all passionate about.
Yeah.
And that's what you've done.
Thank you for saying that. That's really nice. And I really feel like Avenue A has tethered me to my artistic career. That sounds so dramatic, but this time, honestly, like the last 6 months was really, really hard. And like, leaving art school, you know, the art school of my dreams, and having to go home and finish like graduating in my front lawn, you know, like there's so many things. And obviously, like, I'm so blessed to be healthy and to, you know, have all these things going for me. And I know for a lot of people, they were devastated a lot worse, but it was still, you know, really emotionally took a toll the last month. So, having this thing to pour my energy into and keep me connected was really, it tethered me to like the outside world, instead of me just like staying in my bed all the time.
Same.
Yeah.
Presley says 2 Bentz. I love it. Presley, thanks for tuning in.
Oh, Presley has a great live show too. 2020 in your 20s. You should check it out. She's fantastic.
That, like, nothing beats that title.
I know, it's so good. I'm like, instantly, I feel relatable. I feel like it's relatable.
I know. I love it. I love it. Oh, and Kevin, absolutely. It's all about the community.
It really is.
That is so true. That's so true. Kels, we went way over 30 minutes.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Thank you so much. Like, I could keep asking you questions forever. So
I know, we could talk forever.
We should turn this into a podcast where we
why not?
We can just talk forever.
Yeah.
I love it. Live streaming during the pandemic kept my sanity.
Right, Kevin? Literally, it was like the one thing, like,
that's
just
so
knowing that I had to get behind the camera every week and like maybe put a little mascara on, it was like so helpful.
Yeah, like you had to get up, you had to get ready for this community.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
We'll leave off on that note.
Okay.
Kels, thank you so much for being such a great guest. Thanks for willing to be on 2 Bentz, giving their 2 cents.
2 Bentz. I love it. Thank you so much for having me. You are my inspiration. I look up to you. You are just fantastic. So blessed to call you my sister, my mentor, my supervisor. You know what I mean? My producer. Couldn't live without ya.
Thank you so much, Kels. Same to you. I can't even manage this show without you. I need you back in the producing seat, not in the guest seat.
Kick me out.
Kels, have a great night. Thank you so much for sharing all your tips and your perspective with my audience.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
See you soon.
Bye.
Oh my gosh, what a fun show. We went way over time, you guys. These shows are supposed to be 30 minutes. We're pushing an hour. But thank you for everyone who was tuning in. Your comments, it makes it so much fun putting these shows on every single week. Like Kels was mentioning, it's hard to stay consistent. It's hard to book a guest every single week. Ross says, thanks. Fun discussion. Yeah, Ross, thanks for being here. Beauty Bubble's here, Nadine's here, Kevin's here. Thank you guys so much. Presley says, OMG. I can't wait till Presley's next show. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. We will be live next Tuesday. Yep, we're still on for Tuesday. It's not a Thanksgiving. Our other show that Kelsey and I do together, we're taking a break next week for Thanksgiving, but 2 Cents is going to be on Tuesday next week. And tonight, this wraps up this episode of 2 Bentz giving their 2 cents. We'll see you next week.